one time.
Yeah.
And the Lord said, you want me to show you how that worries me? You want me to just show you how simple that is? Go fishing.
Yeah.
And the first fish you catch, you pull him in and open his mouth and see what's in his mouth. Can I tell you what? I've got a God that's able to supply when there's no reason to believe there can be a supply. But he takes great pride in allowing us to see his manifestation work. Praise God. Now, I don't mean don't go to work.
Right. Come on. Come on.
I don't want you to misunderstand me at all. I'm not saying sit at home and depend on God.
Right.
The Bible said if you don't work, you don't eat. I'm all about it. I know people get into hard places. I've been there before myself. But you know what? I'm going to tell you what. I split wood for 2 days one day with a mallet and splitting wedges. And brother, it was an old crooked oak tree. But Brother Joe, that's the only way I had to make any money to feed my little old kids. And I went home that night with blisters underneath blisters. Man, the next day I couldn't hardly wrap my hand around that splitting wedge. But I ran that maul. But I started busting that wood again. I don't want to do that every day of my life. That'll make you old in a real big hurry. But I want you to know I believe in doing what you got to do. But listen, the Bible said don't get so caught up in the cares of this life.
Right.
That it overcharges your system.
Right. Yes, sir.
Oh, I feel the Holy Ghost talking to somebody.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Let me go to Psalms 23. I love Psalms 23.
Yes, sir.
In 37 years of ministry, pastoring 4 churches, unfortunately, it's fell my lot to help with a lot of funerals. I'll probably help with a lot more before it's over with unless I go first. But almost every time, somewhere in the course of that funeral, somebody wants all or part of Psalms 23 to be read. Because it talks to us. David wrote it, and the things he wrote in it would be very familiar to a shepherd. Because he wrote it from the background of living the life of a shepherd. And he said, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. David understood that it was the shepherd's job to go ahead of the sheep and find the right water holes where the water was good. It was the shepherd's job to know range conditions and to know weather patterns and to know the times of the seasons, Brother Joe, and know when I need to carry my sheep up high on the mountain and when I need to bring them back down into the valley. It was the shepherd's job to know that during a drought I need to carry them over here. It was the shepherd's job to know that in certain times of the year there are plants that grow that are poisonous and I'm going to take my sheep away from them. You know what? I'm so glad tonight that the God of heaven is leading our boat. I'm so glad God's driving this thing. I'm so glad that he knows the conditions. I'm so glad he knows what next year is going to bring. I'm so glad he knows what I need in my life when I need it. Praise God. It's the shepherd's job. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Listen, he maketh me to lie down in green pastures. To a shepherd, green pastures meant abundant providence, abundant provision, abundant grass for the sheep to eat. It meant that the shepherd has chosen wisely, and this is rich, green, fertile grass that the sheep can eat. And it said, he maketh me to lie down. Now, I'm not going to even pretend to you tonight that I know a lot about sheep. I know some about hogs and cows, but I'm not but I've read some in books about sheep and about shepherds, and I've been made to understand, Brother Joe, that a sheep won't lay down if he's nervous. A sheep won't lay down if he's afraid. He will walk and walk and walk till he just can't walk anymore and finally just fall down. But he said, he maketh me to lie down. He takes my fears away. He takes my concerns away. He takes all the things that cause me trouble away to the point that I feel comfortable laying down and knowing that the shepherd is watching the horizon. The shepherd is keeping his eye on things. The shepherd's got his hands on my kids. The shepherd's got his hands on my wife while I'm gone. The shepherd's got his hand on all my stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. He does.
He leadeth me beside still waters.
Yes, sir.
I love the woods. I love being out in the woods. I love any part of that. I just love it.
Right.
And sometimes you go out there and you see these little brooks or little creeks or whatever y'all call them over here. Some places call them rivers. You can jump across them. But anyway, they're just little rocks and little twinkling waters flowing down. Man, it's so pretty, and then you can see the sun sparkling off of it, and you can hear it gurgling over the stones. And, you know, I mean, I could paint you a picture here today to almost make you thirsty.
Yes,
but you look at that and you realize that that water is not deep, because I see the stones sticking out, and I can see the bottom there. But you know what? When you walk up to one of those that there's just barely a little movement in, and you can look at that and see that current flowing from way down, you don't just step off in that, brother, because you might get wet if you do. Still waters run deep. He maketh me to lie down, or what leads me beside still waters. That doesn't mean there's no life in it. That just means it's deep. There's a lot of water. Aren't you glad God's not running out of anything? Aren't you glad God's not going to ever worry about a shortage of anything? Aren't you glad if God needs to, he can just create it? He can make it hit a rock, and rock will pour water out enough for millions if we need to. We're never going to run out of what God wants us to have.
That's the truth.
Oh, listen. David wrote this. He wasn't worried about the cares of this life.
No.
He was not worried about, he wasn't sitting up late at night worried about the rent.
No.
He wasn't sitting up late at night worried about the next sale down at Mason's.
Right. Come on.
He wasn't worried about the new iPhone coming out.
No.
He was not concerned about getting the newest model of sling.
No.
He wasn't concerned about that.
No.
The Lord's my shepherd.
Yes, sir.
David, aren't you a little bit worried? No, the Lord's my shepherd.
Right.
David, aren't you a little concerned? No, the Lord's my shepherd.
Not at all.
Oh, man.
Not at all.
Are you taking nerve pills? No, the Lord's my shepherd.
Right.
Are you all in a mess when you sit around chewing your fingernails off? No, the Lord's my shepherd.
Yeah, come on, that's good.
Listen, he restoreth my soul.
Right.
A sheep, by virtue of the way it's built, have little short legs that are not very big around, and a body that's big around. All the weight's in the body. Sometimes a sheep will lay down, and because the ground has a little incline to it, it will roll too far.
All right.
And its feet are sticking up. And the weight of its own body will not allow it to right itself.
Right. Come on.
It's laying there just pawing and kicking. It can't get up, Brother Joe.
Right.
They call it being cast. C-A-S-T-E. That sheep is cast.
Yeah.
It's the weight of its own body has got it's rolled over. It can't motivate. And the legs begin to get numb. And it's blatant, and the other sheep are looking at it, can't do anything for it. But you know what the shepherd does? The shepherd comes along and rolls it back over and begins to rub those legs and begin to get blood flowing back into them again, get the nerves working and the muscles working again, begins to move them around, and then the shepherd will reach down and pick them up, and the little sheep is real unsteady, just can't get his balance and can't get his strength up, and he'll go back down. That shepherd will pick it up and begin to walk along beside it. Can I tell you something tonight? Every once in a while, our own self, our own old flesh will overweigh us, will get us to the point where we get in a bind and we can't get out of it. But I've got a God that'll reach down and pick you up. He doesn't want to bind and say, oh, you got messed up, forget about you. Oh, you got all rolled over, your feet are sticking in. Oh, you're done, the wolf's going to get you. No, the shepherd picks him up and begins to walk along beside him. I don't know about you, but I've had a lot of days when I knew God was holding me up. I knew God was sustaining me. I knew God was my strength. I knew God was beside me.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I feel the Holy Ghost.
Come on, that's good.
Somebody in this building,
Come on, that's good.
you're going to get into shape one of these days when you get into a mess and you're like that sheep, your feet are just sticking up. And I tell you what you do, you call on the name of the Lord. The name of the Lord is a strong tower, and the righteous runneth therein and are delivered. The little sheep can't call the name of that shepherd, but he can call out with a blade and the shepherd hears it. Can I tell you, brother, when you call on the name of the Lord, everything in heaven stops. Everything in heaven tunes in. And God said, I got to get down there. The Bible said one place the Lord spoke to Gabriel and said, Gabriel, move